Hello, everybody. Welcome at your world or mine. Show me yours, and I'll show you mine. And today we have beautiful Erica here from Denver. And as you know, I'm an alien. I'm coming from another planet. And Erica, I'm really fascinated about your world. So
Ah,
tell us a little bit about your world. My people wants to know what's going on in your world.
oh, well, my world, as you can well imagine, is filled with so many ingredients at this time. Some of which can be very confusing, but many of which are still quite crystal clear and exquisite. So I don't know if you know this, Miss Alien, but I live the life of an artist. So,
Mhm.
and probably always have. It's in my family bloodline, actually. I come from an entire family of vaudevillians and clowns and mimes and writers and singers and painters. Um, and so I probably couldn't escape it. But I don't know if you know this phrase. It's beautiful by Joseph Campbell, uh, who states, "If you live your bliss, meaning your passion, and you come in with a certain kind of passion, you come in with it. It's written on your soul. If you live this bliss, then it's as if the cosmos will come to your aid to make it all work out." And so actually the arts uh, saved my life, not just because I was lucky enough to find my bliss very, very early on, but because my soul, I suppose, made certain choices. And my family also made these choices to come together with me. And there was a good deal of tragedy, actually. My mother died when I was very young, and there was divorce. There were all sorts of uh, bittersweet, uh, sacred wounds, I should like to say. But that the arts actually made it possible for me to thrive in my life.
Wow. Wow.
Yeah, this is
That's
very,
that's amazing.
yeah, I think it is. I think it is. Yeah.
Wow. I'm just sensing into it, and I think from the ones who came more recently, we don't want to speak on our planet about the young ones because there's too many misperceptions about their abilities and their genius and things like that. Older people think they know more than younger people, for example. So we like to refer to it those who came more recently um,
Okay.
and onto our planet. And if you have to say to those beautiful ones who came more recently, so if they're in a situation where they go through this bittersweet that you're talking about,
Wait, say once again, I missed the last part of your question.
if they came in and they're currently in a process where they're experiencing the bittersweet, what
Yes.
is it? How can they get into this thing that you call art? What? How can they?
Well, very good. You bring something up in my mind I'd like to speak of first. First part of my answer is that I believe this is Kairos time. This is on our planet a very profound time. Um, and really, we were all of us born to these times. So, very important for us all, and young people especially, because it is their world now, um, to find their destiny. And certainly, their destiny would involve beauty. Yeah,
Mhm.
seeing the beauty that does still exist, and seeing what exists in the world that may not upon appearance look like beauty, but see it with great big divine eyes. that actually see and activate beauty in the world. Hopefully that makes sense. I do think, yes, please
No,
respond.
I just wanted to respond to that because in my journey here on your planet, I have discovered that one of your great artists said something about the longer you look at something, the more beauty you see.
Ah, well,
And
it's true.
that for me was quite, and for my people, that's quite extraordinary. So that maybe at first, when you look at something, it doesn't appear to be so beautiful because of the way you define beauty. But the longer you look at it, and with the softer eyes, like you said as well, the divine eyes looking at it, it becomes beautiful.
Yes. And if you're able to look with the divine eyes, you're actually channeling something very potent and powerful. And in seeing this beauty, what is actually happening is transformation. It's transformation of, oh, I don't know, you might call it the shadow, or you might call it simply the chaos. Art itself is actually the ability to reach into the unknown or to reach into the chaos and crystallize something that then takes form and has higher form and beautiful form, exquisite form, informative form. I'd like to read something to you because I think it would be important to define what art is really all about. So I wrote a book a few years ago that took me about a year, and it's a book of poetry, book of mystical poetry. It's called The House of Gathering. And this is not a poem that I want to read to you. It's actually the opening, the preface. And I want to read it to you because I think in a way it does define art. Okay, the preface. We reach into the abstract to give it form. We who are poets and artists alike inevitably struggle to bring into existence some sort of being out of that which is non-being in the gathering of spirit and soul. It is the way of all creation. Perhaps the very meaning of one's life begins with a deep urge to express the inexplicable. Art is the communication of spirituality and the soul's truth, which is eternally unfolding and coming to light out of mysteries unknown. Walking hand in hand with the muse, we make our offerings to the spirit of beauty. For its only want is to reveal itself in the world. As I, dear reader, make this offering to you, may we gather the very best of our lives and gather together as one. So that's the preface of this book. But very important for me in my life to define that beauty, to see that beauty whenever possible, and to transform. And I honestly think that we were all born to do that in some way. Children have access to this. Our children actually have access. We all come in with that bliss. And unfortunately, through the years, it can get, I don't know if beaten out of us is the right word, but it can get lost to us. We can get confused by this wild, crazy world. And our parents may have some ideas about what we should do with our lives and our careers, when in fact, we are all, hopefully, human artists.
You know, my body just, I'm very sensory. On my planet, I'm really sensory. And in my world that I exist. And my body is, when you were sharing, firstly, thank you very much for that, your definition of art. My whole body was responding, all my cells recognized it. It's like an all joyful bliss. So it's a confirmation on our planet as well, that what you were sharing is how we see it as well. But you were defining it so beautifully. And when you were speaking about everybody's born that way, we believe exactly the same. We believe it must just be activated and stimulated and strengthened, and
Yes.
that it can become stronger, and that you can express in whatever way you want to because it comes out of you. It's a gift from the universe to you, in our view.
Yes.
And there's the conditioning and maybe the parents and the teachers that we, and the word that we use is it gets corrupted by other people, society, whatever it might be, because it's not understood. Because people are fearful of something they cannot see and that they don't understand. And if you don't do something yourself, you can't understand it, in our view.
Yes.
It's once you start doing something that you really feel what it feels like.
Yes.
So for us, that's a given on our planet, that everybody has those abilities. And it's never too late to activate them. In our planet, there's people who's like in their later years, and then they discover this amazing gift, whatever it might be, whether it's singing or painting or drawing or writing or poetry, whatever it might be. It's even the way we cook food,
I agree.
anything, the way we get out of bed. It's an art.
It's an art.
And the
Yes.
way, yeah, and the way we communicate with each other now is an art.
It is an art. It is. You're absolutely right. I'm trying to remember something. I started a project some years ago. I have a whole box full of little quotes that I channeled in. And what did I name it? It was to be something like human artistry.
Mm-hmm.
And actually I later found out, the art of living. The
Ah,
art of
mm-hmm.
living, that was to be my project that I was gung-ho on, until I found out that the name actually existed. Of course people have thought this up. There's a wonderful group somewhere in India by that
Mm.
name.
Yeah, we heard about that as well. The
Have
art of,
you? Oh, okay.
yeah, the art of living. We heard it's very powerful. Yeah.
Yes.
Mm. And I'm fascinated about something else you mentioned earlier, the thing about theater.
Yeah.
What is theater? Where did it come from?
Well, apparently, a theater. Now, I think this is true. What I had read was theater originated in old Greece.
Mm-hmm.
I can imagine that it already existed with the cavemen, believe me,
Mm-hmm.
because it's so universal. It probably existed on your planet.
Mm-hmm.
It's probably on the stars above. But
Mm-hmm.
I did read that it began in old ancient Greece, and it really was a religious rite. It was a religious ritual. Um, these days, I would call it more of a spiritual ritual. Though, when people come to see it, they don't necessarily feel that they're going to church. And yet, the interesting thing about theater is that stories and great myths can be acted out upon the stage. And what's happening is that the content, the spiritual content, yeah, underneath the storyline is really being received heart to heart, soul to soul. And this is one of the reasons why audiences need it so, because we don't often connect soul to soul uh, under social circumstances. We need the theatricalization. We need the ritual, the actual ritual. Um, but originally it was known to be of a religious nature.
Mm. I maybe just want to ask you if I'm correct when I say that when you speak about the spiritual part of it, that's the meaning behind it, the deeper
Yes,
meaning, the deeper sense of purpose and understanding.
yes,
And what we've discovered on our planet, and I myself is deeply involved in this process of different ways of perceiving
yes,
that we're not used to, different parts of our bodies and minds that we use to perceive, that we are awakening it currently, that hasn't
yes,
been awakened like 100 years ago. In that sense, we've discovered that when people look at art, for example, it bypasses the conscious mind
exactly.
and it goes straight into the superconsciousness, what we would call the superconsciousness of the person. So the filters of the wounded selves, you talk shadow, the wounded selves like the wounded teenager or the wounded child, the rebellious teenager, or the insecure young adult, or the critical parent, or the authoritative adult, whatever it might be, wounded parts, it bypasses those critical parts and it
Yes,
goes straight to the soul. And that's why when you speak about the theater, I feel it's the same.
yes.
It speaks to the heart, and it's like music as well.
Oh my gosh, yes, absolutely.
It bypasses those critical parts like the reptilian part of the brain, which
That's
is so focused on is this safe or not. It doesn't even think, it just reacts
that's right.
because it doesn't know it and doesn't want to make place for this new experience. So that's fascinating. And when you were speaking about from the theatrical point of view, is that you speak directly to people's hearts, and it happens subconsciously.
Yes, yes. When I speak of heart to heart, soul to soul, um, and I love what you've said that it bypasses the thought process. Yes. Um, Another way of putting it is that it bypasses the local psychology,
Mhm.
which is constantly judging, has so many filters. It bypasses all of that and it brings the audience and the player, yeah, into a field that is called the creative unconscious.
Mhm. I like that.
Yeah,
Mm,
the
I
creative
like that.
unconscious. And in the creative unconscious, we are all knowing. That's what we meet up with divinity, in fact. Yeah. I mean, if we can, it's very healing. And, from such a state, we can experience illumination and awakening. So I do happen to think that theater is of a potent healing nature as well. I really do. I really do.
When you speak about theatre, I have to ask you in the context of what's currently happening in your world from a technology point of view. The fact that we can now have this beautiful gathering online and we're in completely different locations.
Oh boy.
Now, in terms of theatre, I'm interested in the physical part, in the somatic part of the body as well responding. Do you think a real life show, like a real life theatre um, experience, have a different effect on people than online if they just watch a video, for example, about a
Wow.
play? I'm curious. I don't know the answer. I'm curious.
Um, Let me think about this for a moment. I would say it's far more potent
Mm.
um, because of the close proximity within a theater. Um, Partly it's because of where we are as human beings, where our consciousness is at this point. Um, I think potentially we could have theater online, for heaven's sake, and reach each other. Certainly, we watch television and we watch movies, but there is something in the close proximity that is very hands-on. We
Mm.
can almost touch each other. We can feel each other to be in such close proximity. It's riveting. Yeah, at this point, I think that human beings are still expanding, though. So we'll see what happens in the future.
Yeah, it takes me to something else. Live shows, like you have live musical shows with vocalists and bands and the likes.
Yeah.
The same with those artists. Like when the vibe that if you're there physically is very different from when you watch it on a video. It's you become more part of it. I feel that when you're really present there when it's happening.
Yes.
And it's wonderful that we can use technology that we can also experience it on some level, but it's not the same level because of that vibe that we physically become part of. And it worries us a little bit that yes, technology is wonderful, but it's like some of those parts of ourselves that responds outwards, our cells, our cell memory, and the whole being of ourselves responding to whatever we're experiencing is being neglected because it's not stimulated anymore. So I would want to invite the younger people on earth to really make it an effort to, and it's not like it's a hard thing when I say the word effort, but to go to theater, experience it, and explore it, even playfully at home. I remember as kids, when we were young, we lived in a small town on my planet, and it was very fascinating what we did. We were always in the trees, and so we saw the world from up top, from the top.
Me too. I was a tree climber. I was.
And our roof of our house was flat. We had a flat roofed home. So we would get on top of that roof as kids and entertain the neighborhood's kids, doing shows for them on top of that roof. And they're sitting on the grass downstairs, on the ground. And my mom was amazed. She was just an amazing, she was making the most beautiful clothes and she designed her own patterns and everything like that. So we would use all her off-cut materials like fabrics to make our own costumes.
It's fantastic.
And we came up with the most extraordinary stories to now perform to these kids.
Yeah.
And it's natural to children. Nobody taught us how to do it. We didn't even have drama at school or anything like that. It was just extraordinary. So I think it's in our blood, this theatrical thing, to want to perform regardless of where we come from and what we do. And you know, on my planet, in my own life, I have played with people in the business world in that way too. We would do a strategy session and we would end with this theatrical role-playing scenario that they have to perform. And we did it in very different contexts, whether it's a conference or a strategy session or a team building session, doesn't matter, but there was this performance thing at the end. And it was usually the people who was the most logical in their minds that came up with the most creative ideas how to perform.
Oh, really? Interesting.
Yes, that's a fact. That's an academic fact.
Yes, I understand.
And it's wonderful to see. And then they would say to you, but you know, we never play. And we never really have time to really get out of ourselves. And when they say out of themselves, they mean out of the normal rut that they're in, to play like that and to perform and to take on that role because they're now role playing.
That's right.
And it brought them together. So there was this bonding thing that they didn't have otherwise. So the power of theater is amazing.
It is, you know, you're making me think. I have found, not just through studies, but experientially, that some of the most creative folks that I've ever met are lawyers.
Mm-hmm.
And lawyers who obviously they are very left-brained, they're very organized, linear, grounded, concrete thinkers, actually have, on the other end of the spectrum, a potential for right brain thinking that if it isn't satisfied, then they're miserable.
Mm-hmm.
And that lawyers actually must have a hobby at least, um, that, that fires up the right side of the brain. Which really brings me to something else that I'd like to speak of. I thought of it earlier in our interview. Not only did we come in, as artists, human artists, or in whatever way you'd like to think of, we're creative. We're meant to be co-creative, but the way our brain, the human brain, functions, it functions best when there is communication with both sides, the left brain and the right brain. And if we forget about, and it's happening in our country, in America, if we forget about creativity in school system, for instance, then and we're going underground because technology is bringing us underground rather than above ground, co-creation and in physical somatic interplay with each other, then our brains are not integrating properly. Our brains, our own individual brain is not integrating, and we are not integrating with each other. So that balance of that creativity brings us to is essential. It's essential for our health, for human health, and planetary health.
Interesting. I'm really grateful that you actually mentioned that, because a fascinating aspect that we have discovered on our planet with especially younger people these days is that depression is when that creative spirit is not given the opportunity to express itself.
Yes.
And it turns into depression. But if you then use that state that you are in, that's where there's so much creativity hiding.
Yeah.
And if you just and if you just give yourself some medium to express that, whether it's writing or drawing or painting, and you don't need to be an artist per se, a recognized artist, to do that, it helps then for that energy to come out. Because energy, in our experience, if it's blocked and if it's suppressed, that's when it becomes contaminated and distractful and dysfunctional. It's only because it's not allowed to express itself. Because energy wants to flow, naturally speaking.
Yes.
So I'm now speaking to whoever is going to listen to us and to watch us, to whenever you feel depressed, just take out some, nobody will see it, it speaks for you. Go get some paint. Paint, doesn't matter what you paint, or just write, or sing, whatever comes up, in whatever way it feels for you to express that energy, and move and move through it with your body, that you're not stuck in one place.
Right.
Because that will make that energy moves, and the lightness of being will come with that.
Yes.
You just give that energy an opportunity to be expressed. But I also want to say it's fascinating from a synchronistic point of view. You spoke about the lawyers.
I didn't hear you.
As I said, you spoke about the lawyer,
Yes.
the left and right brain. It was fascinating that I just want to share this little story quickly. We had a workshop, a creative workshop, and there was people from all different spheres. And one of them was a lawyer. He was in his late 30s. And he was telling me, but in the beginning of the workshop, he said to me, but he cannot be creative as a lawyer. And I said to him, let's watch the process. So we start playing. So we play the whole day. Even he comes to me, he says to me, you know what? I know how I can implement this at work. It was fascinating that through the process he discovered it's possible.
Yes. Yes.
So all I want to say to anybody who's listening to us or watching us who think that in your environment you cannot be creative, it's not entirely true. It's up to you. But it's so much fun, and his face lit up through the process. And when he discovered, wow, I think more creatively, not so logical, and that would help me in my cases when I do my my professional work, he was fascinated by that. And the using of hands, that's the other thing I want to mention.
Yes.
That they discovered through this body-mind connection through the hands. When you do something physically with the hands, it brings things from the unknown, but we can't see the invisible into the visible.
That's right.
And the more we do it, the more clear it becomes. So that connection, that artistic connection, that creative connection, so the more we use our hands, so whatever we do, we could actually play with paint just with our fingers as well. But that process of using our hands, that's why writing and things like that is also so powerful. With a hand, not on a keyboard. It's different on a keyboard. Because we activate a different sense from a nervous system point of view when we use a keyboard than when we write with our hands.
Absolutely.
Mm.
Yeah, so, you know, this book that I wrote, for instance, it was born out of a ritual, a daily ritual of writing. I should start with this. I facilitate, so I'm a creative mentor among many things, and I facilitate the artist's way. I don't know if you're familiar with it.
Have we seen it? Yes. Yeah.
It's quite wonderful, and generally it's done with a group of people, and there's one facilitator. The stronghold of this book is something called Morning Pages.
Mm-hmm.
And Julia Cameron, who wrote this book many years ago, and it's rampant. There are groups doing this all over the world. The stronghold is to write 3 pages, start with 3 pages every single morning, but always write by hand. Never type it up, write by hand. And what is happening is that you know, your psyche is being activated and quite open, and it's coming through the body onto the page. And what happened for me was I started writing 3 simple pages every single day, and then I started having conversations on the page. I found myself going to the page every morning, perhaps asking a question, something that I was struggling with. And the answer would come through another aspect of myself. Or who knows, it was coming from God. But that dialogue expanded over a period of time, and what came out of that ritual was, number one, this book, and now I'm actually writing a play, and it came from 3 simple pages a day, and so it has expanded into a play. And off of the page came many different skills and projects, so many things that I have produced. It's just a simple ritual.
Mm. You know,
Which again bypasses the inner critic. It bypasses the need to judge your work.
The perfection part, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, I've done myself, I've gone through a similar process. So I can so resonate with what you say, and I can really affirm that it's so powerful. And you know how my process developed through the years is also fascinating. I'm still stunned at myself because mine started like that too, like many moons ago. I would write like lots and lots of pages, not just 3, like it would just come, lots and lots, different things, every single morning. And I would write with my non-dominant hand from the right of the page to the left, and all the letters swapped.
Wow.
So and it started naturally. And one day my daughter came into the room and she said to me, "What are you doing?" And I said, "I'm just writing like every morning," because she knew I would get up like 4 in the morning when everybody else is asleep, and I'll just write. And I had boxes full of this type of writing, literally boxes and boxes full of stuff.
Yeah.
But when she saw me, she said to me, "Do you know who wrote like that?" And I said to her, "No, I have no idea." She said, "Leonardo da Vinci." And I was, because he's one of my biggest gurus, if you want to use those words. But it was fascinating. But the interesting part is that that process evolved into a very simplistic process. I don't do that anymore every morning. I have a creative process that also naturally came through like that, where I call it predicted miracles, because I get all these concepts. It's concepts now, so it's not flowing of words. Different ones, nothing to do with each other. I've got thousands of it because it happens every morning. But what happens is it's like future memories that I'm writing down.
Yes.
And these things will start happening then in the future. And then I know, but I wrote about that 2 days ago, or that person's name came up 2 days ago, which I know from no bar of soap.
Yes.
So it's very interesting if we just continue, and I mean, this is just now one way of saying that it's very powerful what you share, those type of morning pages, in whatever way for a person. Another dear friend of mine, he is actually he's an artist, but from a painting point of view and drawing point of view. But now his writing ability has come through that way.
Yes.
And he's a teacher from profession, so his profession is very different from this artistic side of him. But it has evolved now in his writing gift has now come out that way. And he writes most beautifully. I'm stunned at what he's writing. So I want to really invite everybody out there. Yes. Try it. It works. Yes. And it also gives us an opportunity. In the beginning, I felt for me personally, it was giving me an opportunity to share my feelings. I always say to young people, instead of holding all these feelings in your body, and you don't think anybody's going to understand you, or they're going to criticize you, or judge you, write it down. Let it come out of your body, out of your mind. Just by that download, emptying your mind, you become more balanced and more at peace. And you can look at it later, but you don't have to. But it's there. It's really powerful from a personal healing perspective. And when we use the word healing, we mean coming into balance.
Yeah, okay.
That's so healing. And to just let it come out of you, because otherwise you keep it in here. And the more, it's like a cup of coffee. If you don't drink it, there's no space for something else to go into that cup. So we are just emptying the cup. That something beautiful, we were speaking of beauty earlier, can come in. And we believe on our planet that beauty in all its forms, it could be simply seeing some old people kissing each other, or nature, or an animal doing something, or an animal coming to us because they give so much unconditional love, for example, or seeing beautiful art. Going to places where you can see beauty, because it uplifts your spirit immediately and speaks to our soul like you spoke before. So how would you, Erica, how would you tell the ones who came more recently, how can they experience more beauty, that it really gets to their souls?
Well, there are many ways. I think that the writing, for instance, or playing, is not just an emptying of worries, but there's a portal that you're able to move through and connect with the source, and to connect with what I call the creative unconscious. It's such an expansive opening that one's perspective, just keeps changing, but allows one to be present to the moment. And if you are simply present to the moment, then beauty is all around you. There's no question about interpretation any longer. It is there. How? Yes, through play, through interplay, through creativity, through reading poetry, through receiving, but also through expressing. It's all around if we can just give it our attention. what can I say? You know, I'm, as I say, when I was a little girl, my goodness, it was all about creativity. Saved my life. Say it can save everyone's life. Um, how to do it? Well, I think we workshop with each other as much as possible. We bring it back into the schools as much as possible. We go to theater, we sing, we dance, we become one with the rhythm of the universe and the music of the spheres. No matter how difficult our world is at this time, we can access that beauty. And once we do that, we're then in a position to help the world.
Thank you for that. While you were speaking, I felt it in my body again. So the power of it, it's just amazing. It's just unexpressible, actually. The power behind it, if we can just bring it more into our lives, like you say.
Yes, and you know, the truth of the matter is, life is a process. So there are going to be ups and downs. We are going to be in a position where we're expressing, we're in flow, the energy is truly flowing. But part of process, just like breathing in and breathing out, there will be times when creative output is not possible. And when you find yourself in that position, if you're getting a little depressed from it, because it does cause a little depression, that's when it's time for us to get a little help from our friends. That's when it's time for us to perhaps read a poem a day by somebody like Rumi or whoever you love that inspires you. You know, we breathe in and we breathe out. We breathe in and we breathe out. We are in flow and express and we take in. And as long as we can live in that, that's a kind of flow anyway, actually. But not to get too downhearted when things are a little off, because life is an artful process. Artful process. It's the dance of the shadow and the light, and even children, those who have come in recently. Here's an interesting way of looking at life's little conflicts. They are the seeds of our growth, and they are the seeds of our growth to water and to nurture and to explore and to do great artful things with, to transform and to create beauty.
Oh, that's beautiful. You know, in my gallivanting around your planet, I came across the most beautiful wisdom that I cannot remember now who was saying it, but it says something like this: the most severe kind of abuse is suppressing somebody's creative spirit
Oh, yes.
and their genius. It was just, it was just, it just resonated. It sounds so true that that's the most severe type of abuse. You can talk about physical abuse, mental abuse, emotional abuse, but if you suppress somebody's, that energy, that beautiful, because it's beautiful energy, to not be expressed and not allowed, it is the most horrifying type of abuse.
Yes.
And most humans is not even aware, especially parents, because they just don't know better necessarily, that, or teachers, or the society, that's actually the worst kind of abuse there is.
Yes.
And it's like a garden. And I think it was your beautiful Julia that you spoke about now with the writing, the morning pages. I think she said something like, when we have this garden, don't others' ideas, this garden of ideas, don't allow others to poison your little seeds.
Yes.
And that we should not poison others' little seeds because we don't understand what they're busy bringing in, or we just don't know what they're doing. So we should be very careful not to make horrible remarks because we just don't understand. When somebody is busy seeding that beautiful creative potential.
Mm.
And that we have to create these beautiful gardens. And are we saying not a real garden, but the environment and the ambience and the atmosphere for the little ones who come in, that they can express that, because they express it in a very different way from the ones who've been here longer, because they came at a very different time.
Yeah.
That we must nourish and nurture that. And that's really parenting. You think about it.
Yes, it is.
Mm.
It is.
And give it love and warmth and yeah, and constantly praise it, because it blossoms through that. And what are you busy drawing? Instead of you can't draw, or for example. But I think the world is changing. From what I understand and what I perceive, is the world is changing. It's opening up more and more to this creative part. So I'm also on another point that I'm fascinated about and interested and curious about is, what is it that you specifically do to help people to awaken this creative spirit? Do you have workshops? You talk about your books. You talk about many things. What is it that others that now engages with us in this way can reach out to you, that they can access or explore at least? What is it that you do?
I'll tell you a little bit about the way my life looks. So I should begin by saying this. Yes, I am an artist. I'm an artist of many, many, many sorts. Perhaps I could be called a Renaissance artist. But I am an artist and a healing artist.
Mhm.
So I have, I have an entertainment company, actually. We provide entertainment to corporations. We have a circus, and I write mythic theater with the Cirque. So hopefully my messages and my lessons um, of illumination come through theatrical devices. And I'm an actor, so um, but I do, through the many, many years that I have lived as an artist, I've come to understand that the arts sort of bleed into each other. Once you do
Mhm.
one thing, it's very likely that you will explore and become good at yet another form. So now I'll just tell you, I'm a painter, I'm a jeweler, I'm an actor, I'm a mime, which is
Mhm.
really very interesting, to tell you the truth. I am a playwright, I'm a mystical poet, and I'm sure that I'm forgetting many things, and I'm a healing artist. So the name of my practice is Mythic Healing Arts, and I have many services. One is to do, I guess, what would be known as a psychic reading,
Mhm.
uh, uh, where I'm doing something called graphoanalysis, and I'm using tarot cards. So I'm using the world of archetypes to um, download information that gives clarity to my client about their journey. And I have many other offerings like past life regression work, or guided meditations, chakra balancing, um, clearing of one's energy, laying of hands, all sorts of things of this nature, and creative mentoring. And one of the wonderful things that I offer is something called creative visualization and visual journaling. It's kind of hard to explain very quickly, but along with the 3 pages every morning that I do, I have learned another technique, and I teach this technique, which is to have a book that blank pages, yes, not lines, not to be writing
Mhm.
necessarily, and you take art, or you rip out pieces of paper from books or magazines, And without thinking, because you're always trying to bypass the thought processes, you see what appeals to you, you paste it on the page, and then you take paint and you paint, and then perhaps there's a word that appeals to you, and you paste that down. And from that, you stand back and you look at your little creation, and it inspires other thoughts. So then you begin to write a few words, and then that was your creation for the morning. It doesn't take very long. It's very quick, but it's very interesting what can happen from the process of creating it. But then the exploration of what was presented on the page, it's almost as if you stood aside from yourself and you let it happen.
Mhm.
And the expression on the page teaches you something. It opens you up in a way that is very unexpected. Past that, I do workshops. I try to do a 3-day workshop twice a year.
Mhm.
And in that workshop, I'm teaching so many things about spirituality, about art, and certainly about the myth, as I put it, the mythology, the mythos
Mhm.
of your individual life that is much greater, perhaps, than you tend to view it. So it's very important to me that we all kind of honor each other's journeys. We begin with that. We don't put each other's journeys down. We honor it as a beginning, as a launching point to a much more greater, expansive life. And then we take a look and see what actually can be restoried.
Mhm.
We reworked
Mm.
and all. And
That's
in a
beautiful.
nutshell, that's the way. That's what my life looks like.
That
And
is
I
most
try to do a show.
extraordinary. That's most extraordinary. That's really the Renaissance artist in
I
action, really. And when you were speaking about the myth, I think Rumi said something like, create your own myth. So you, with your life, which you spoke about, the art of living, you create your own myth
yes,
with your life. Firstly, the way we do life, and then in this way, that expression of our spirit in whatever way feels good to us and that we
yes.
resonate with. That's most beautiful. Erica, is there a message that you would want to share with the world and especially our younger ones?
An image, did you say?
No, a message.
Oh, a message. Oh my.
Yes.
There are many messages. I may take a moment, if you don't mind.
Not a problem. No, not a problem. You look. Well, Erica is looking for that beautiful message that
Yes.
you. It's important for us on my planet, for our own well-being, that we do not see life as different silos. Like we know that on Earth, a lot of people in the past have been specialists, so they would only focus on one area. They wouldn't know what is going on in the rest of the world. They wouldn't understand it. They were just not interested in it. And Erica used this word, the Renaissance. And it goes back for us to what's also called polymaths. Is somebody who brings it all together. Like there's all these different expressions of art, which Erica now has so beautifully shared with us. And where other people would just be a painter, or just be a sculptor, or just be a singer. That's the specialist type look at life. And we're seeing that life's evolving again. It's a new renaissance that's happening. That we have the opportunity because the opening up of the internet that opened up everything for us. So we can go and discover whatever we want on there. You just Google something and there you get lots and lots of information about things. Opened us up that we can become this integrated being for us from a Renaissance point of view, a rebirth, a new being rebirthing, but also this integration parts of the sciences, the arts, philosophy, psychology, economics, you name it. The combination of it all together, because we have all those archetypes within ourselves. And they just need to be stimulated, activated, stimulated, and given the opportunity to be expressed. So thank you, Erica. You really brought that into the sphere now as well. Thank you for mentioning that, because that's who you are from what we see here and experience here. And your message, dear, did you find one? The message?
Yes, this is a piece called "Destiny Finds Us." All right, shall I? Destiny finds you when you least expect it, and often in your darkest hour. It enters just when fate has backed you against the wall. Your only hope is for some attempt to rescue your soul from your ill-fated lot. But the fact is, you may be witnessing the divine partnership of shadow and light, and you are merely being escorted towards your very own calling. Sometimes it has to get bad, really bad, before we take full responsibility for our lives. The fates seem to break into our falsehoods and our fancies, like dark angels in the night that say, "Surrender now. Go to the depths of your being, to the urge behind your purpose, into the power of your destiny. You are the workers of the world." Some of you carry a lightness of being. Some of you carry a heavy load. In one way or the other, you are here to help the world spin round while weaving the tales of yore. You are an eternal hero with much to tell. So tell it well, you Hamlet, you Eros, you Psyche, you Soul. You have an ancient heritage to worlds held secret to most. Tell the story you came to tell, and remember what you stood for all the time you lived and died, and now live again once more. You are the crier for the soul of the world, you who stand for something. Are you the maker of poetry? Are you the maker of art? Are you the maker of new form and thought with a deeply passionate heart? Are you healer, teacher, philosopher? Do you stand for 1,000 souls? Are you here for justice? Are you here for truth? Are you here to change the world? The eons have waited on you, my friend, waited to hear your word.
Wow. That's a part of your work, your poetry?
Oh, yes. My book, yes.
Can you just show it again? Yes,
I must tell you, this is a brand new cover that I created in my artwork. But what I forgot to do, this is it, the House of Gathering.
Most beautiful. Wow.
What I forgot to do was change in the interior of the book. It states that there was a different artist. So I now have to change the interior.
Oh, wow. That leads me to another question. But thank you so much for that. That is such a powerful message. And it's more than a message for me. It speaks so deeply to myself, personally as well. Thank you for that, for sharing that into the world. The curiosity I have is if you're willing that people could connect with you if they're curious about whatever you share today. So at the end of the podcast, can I share your details?
Oh, please do.
Because your book, we want to know more about your book and all the other wonderful things that you do, and that you share with the world in such a gracious and beautiful way. So from my side and my planet, we're all rejoicing and we're giving so much grace and thanks for being like you on earth at the moment, and that you are willing to share with all of us who's going to engage in this video and to sense into it and explore it in whatever way they want to. So thank you for that. We are really, 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 really grateful.
Well, and I am so grateful to you. What a wonderful meeting of the world. Lovely.
Two worlds colliding.
Yes.
Beautiful. Thank you, everybody. We look forward to seeing you again. And really, I can tell you from a personal perspective that this beautiful being, this Renaissance artist, is somebody that has so much wisdom to share that it cannot be lost. You have to sense into some of it, and you have to experience some of it, at least on some level. So thank you very much, everybody. We see you soon again. Goodbye.